According to legend, a woman called Lin Mo lived on Meizhou Island to the north of Quanzhou Bay. She could foretell the future, and she protected her brother's boats, guiding them back into shore with her lamp. One day, though, they did not come back, and full of guilt, Lin Mo drowned herself. Since then, sailors and fishermen have looked to her for protection, calling her Mazu, or Mother Ancestor.
马祖成为天妃啊，是在元代，这是泉州港海神崇拜的一个很大的变化。刚刚结束不久的宋代，这个海神就是九日山的那个通远王了。官方的祭祀啊是到那边去的。南宋一结束，没几年呢，元朝廷呢就把这个海神呢封给天妃，封给马祖了，也从此九日山上面的祈封仪式也到这个时候结束了。
In 1684, Mazu was given the title of Celestial Queen, and she remains popular and important in the coastal regions of China to this day. Thean Hou Palace is the main Mazu temple in Quanzhou.
泉州天后宫是主建筑，历史最悠久，然后那个规模最大，它占地差不多将近10亩啊，然后规格最高，因为它这个是官庙，历代的皇帝来祭拜，肯定都基本上在这个官庙这边祭拜嘛。哎，他们现在差不多到哪个地方啊？你清楚吗？你联络一下，你帮我联络一下，到底在哪个位置？因为我们要过去接他。
在观音庙那边集结，准备下车。
哎，刚好集结是吧？好，我们11点半再出去了。
Today, wherever the Chinese live by the sea, there are temples to Mazu. She has many followers in Taiwan, across the strait from Quanzhou. This group has traveled here for a special ceremony, 600 of them. Mazu worship came to Taiwan with the ships that plied their trade all around the region.
我从台湾过来，我是台北人，台湾台南。我们台湾人大部分都信妈祖。
There are over 3,000 Mazu temples spread around the island. The goddess has become part of Taiwan's cultural landscape. The center for Mazu worship in Taiwan is the spectacular Thean Temple.
这个北港朝令宫，它是清朝政府呢推广妈祖信仰第一个比较重视的一个庙。这里的进香团大概1年大概有上万团，他们来的时候有时候会带一些表演团体过来，不同的表演，有的是舞狮舞龙啊，有的是会自己弄一些祭祀的仪典啊。妈祖神明呢附在那个女乩童的身上，然后它代表他们庙里面的那些信徒呢，来这边向北港妈祖呢祈求分享灵气。这些信徒呢，他们传说呢，北港的那个庙呢，它的灵气最强，天兵天将最多就对了啊，因为它恰好在台湾的中部，南来北往呢很方便的地方，庙宇分灵最多是这里，不怕你那个分享过去。
Prayers to Mazu were no guarantee of safety. Seafaring in medieval times was inherently dangerous. If a ship set out, it could only be hoped that it would reach its destination, sell its cargo, and make it back in one piece. so each ship was loaded with as much cargo as possible to offset the risk. Though if one of these super-laden ships did go down, the loss was catastrophic. Ship that went down off the South China coast as it headed west with a full cargo. It has given researchers an amazing insight into the way the maritime Silk Road worked.
南海1号呢，是咱们中国迄今为止所发现的年代比较早、承载的文物数量比较多、保存的最完整的一艘宋代远洋贸易商船，可以为我们的古代的造船史、陶瓷史、丝绸之路历史提供很重要的佐证。
Especially interesting was the way that every available space was taken up with cargo.
作为南海1号的商船来讲，它们底下的货物摆放，这蛮有意思的。不但有大套小、节省运输空间的这种做法，同时呢，在运载的货物里面，它也是摆得满满当当的，减少了蓄气力，才能够获得最大的利润。船员也好，老板也好，也希望通过这次贸易的活动，能够赚取最大化的利润。
Had the ship made it to its destination, the merchants would surely have made their fortunes. As it is, they lost everything, maybe even their own lives. With one of the trickiest moments in a voyage being offloading the cargo, as long as 1,000 years ago, a man called Lin Yuan built a pier on the outer edge of Quanzhou Bay. It's still in use today.
泉州晋江的航海家林鸾选择了石湖，水深不易依居，而且避风，也就是泉州湾最适合建造码头的这个地方，来建造属于泉州通向香料群岛一座非常重要的贸易的码头。
As the tide goes out by Linwan Pier, worn steps are revealed. These are the steps that the goods from the ship would have been brought up onto dry land.
当年林鸾的目光注射的位置叫伯尼，就是现在加里曼丹岛西北部文莱这个地方。那个地方就是香料的一个很重要的出产地。但是你要去加里曼丹岛，那一定要横渡茫茫的蓝海，这对于航海家来说是一句巨大的考验。而林鸾的贡献不在他选择了一个好地方，建了一座好码头，而在于他用那种尝试的开创的精神，去开通一条前人想走，当时的人想去，却没有去成的路。
In the end, Quanzhou's main modern port was built just 500 meters from this spot. Since 2017, it's been the main distribution center in Southeast Asia for imported stone from India and Brazil. The port continues to grow. Once new berths have been finished, the port's capacity will double. Also returning to safe haven, Captain Zai Tun and his fishing crew. They've come into harbor in Xiangyu village after nearly a month at sea with a full load of fish. Like the merchants of old, it's a relief to come home safely. But this cargo won't make the sailors wealthy. And as soon as it's unloaded, they will be heading out to sea again. Quanzhou is still developing. It remains true to its traditions as trade continues after thousands of years. bringing goods, culture, and ideas to and from China. But it turns out, this is Quanzhou reasserting itself. At the end of the 14th century, the emperors took control of all maritime activities. At a stroke, Quanzhou, Zai Tun, became a backwater, with almost all trade grinding to a halt. And it remained this way for 300 years. Zai Tun was going to have to find other ways to survive, until history shifted once again, and the city would be allowed to fill its natural role once more as a center of international trade. Medieval navigators coming from the west called it Zai Tun, or Erythrina, after the flame-colored trees that abound here. Over centuries, this port has flourished and declined, and flourished again. Then the gateway to the China trade. Now, a bustling port just across the strait from Taiwan. It has always been a place where merchants met, where goods changed hands and money was made. But cultures also met here and were exchanged, leaving the city one of the most diverse in China. This is Quanzhou, the City of Light. Geography destined Quanzhou to be a port. Situated at the mouth of two major rivers, it has 4 natural bays and 16 natural harbors. The city reached its peak between the 10th and 13th centuries, becoming the main port for trade with China, the starting point for the maritime Silk Road. And there was one product that could be obtained nowhere else but China, a product treasured in the Western world from the earliest days in the 10th century.
这16世纪啊，这个说这海上丝绸之路，其实这是个代号，因为欧洲早已经可以生产丝绸，所以它不需要那么多的丝绸。那么，可是这时候呢，瓷器真正是中国独步世界。
The flames are rising in Yueji Kiln in Dehua outside Quanzhou. It has been working continuously for over 400 years. Its construction ensures it safely reaches temperatures of up to 1400 degrees Celsius, so that the carefully crafted pieces are fired well and not damaged. It's a 17th century factory for ceramics, the oldest still surviving here. In fact, this has been China's center of porcelain production for 1,000 years. These wares were not just for local consumption. They were exported around the world, notably to Europe, where they were considered very desirable. So desirable, in fact, that at the beginning of the 18th century, Augustus II, Elector of Saxony, known as Augustus the Strong, ordered his craftsmen to find ways to imitate it. They succeeded. Meissen is a small picturesque town in eastern Germany, and it is famed worldwide for its fine porcelain. Dieter Horst is an archivist here at the Meissen factory. But the archives he looks after have only a few books. Mostly, they consist of row after row of plaster molds. Every single mold made by the factory since its founding, 300 years ago. 700,000 of them.
Früher gab der Formenarchivar die Standorte hier in solche Formenbücher ein, damit man wusste, wo die Lagerstandorte sind. Da ist hier immer die Bezeichnung und dann der Lagerstandort. Hier wäre zum Beispiel Haus 5 in I und dann die Fachnummer. Dann müssen wir hier ein Stück vorlaufen. Sehen wir schon schön hier aus dem 19. Jahrhundert Formen. Hier stehen neue Arbeitsformen. Und das ist eine unserer ältesten Formen vom Apostel Petrus. Von 1737 ist diese Form. Man kann hier schön sehen, dass es hier noch keine Bezeichnung gab. Hier ist nur ein Schlüssel eingeritzt. Hier kann man es vielleicht noch mal besser sehen. Also alle Formen mit diesen eingeritzten Schlüssel wusste man, die gehören zu dem Formensatz vom Apostel Petrus, weil er die Schlüssel in der Hand hält.
It wasn't just the material that the Germans copied. They also brought in their own versions of Chinese decoration.
Das Meißner Zwiebelmuster wird hier seit den 1730er Jahren gemalt und hat seine Ursprünge in chinesischen Motiven. August der Starke, der unsere Manufaktur gegründet hat, hatte schon eine stattliche Sammlung von chinesischen Porzellan, wollte diese erweitern und hat direkt nach dieser kobaltblauen Farbe suchen lassen. Und die wurde hier erfunden mit einheimischen Rohstoffen. Man hat das bei uns nicht weit von hier im Erzgebirge gefunden, diesen Rohstoff, und konnte diese Farbe dann herstellen. Und es gibt historische Motive, aber eben auch moderne. Und dieses Zwiebelmuster, wie gesagt, hat chinesische Glückssymbole, buddhistische Glückssymbole im Muster. Und die kannte man hier nicht und hat das fälschlich als Zwiebeln interpretiert. Aber im Meißner Zwiebelmuster sind keine Zwiebeln gemalt.
Again, the influence worked in both directions. One of the most intriguing archaeological finds from a shipwreck is a teapot, some 800 years old. In form, it's not like a Chinese teapot at all. It looks like the pots made from metal in Persia. Researchers at the National Museum of China have examined this teapot in detail. Most Chinese porcelain of the period was made on the wheel. But the teapot from the wreck isn't round at all. It's hexagonal and was made in pieces.
它是分段模制的，可能它会有一个大量的生产。它应该是一件按照这个海外市场他们的要求，按照他们日常生活中使用的这个器具的样式而定制的一件产品。所以我们觉得这件产品呢，能够反映当时海外出口量非常大。
The researchers believe they have found the place where this teapot originated.
过去几年，我们做了一个就是关于福建古代地区窑址调查的一个项目，然后其中很重要的一个部分就是对德化窑 在宋元时期的青白瓷的瓷窑遗址进行调查，我们在窑址中也发现了跟它几乎是一模一样的一些标本的一些残片，能够比对上，所以我们能够确定它是德化窑的产品。
Carrying goods by land required camel caravans. These were unsteady at the best of times, and during the long wars in the central plains of China, the roads were often impassable. Such precious and fragile goods as porcelain were better carried westward along the maritime Silk Road by ship. Luckily, there was a port very near to the Dehua kilns, Quanzhou.
在这个泉州港输出的这些产品中呢，陶瓷器就是其中非常非常重要的一个大宗的商品。当时这些陶瓷器就是跟着茶叶呀、丝绸啊最传统的这些产品一起输出到这个海外的市场中。我们馆藏有一部分是从沉船中出水的一些文物，有南海1号沉船，有泰兴号沉船，也有这个华光礁1号沉船。这些沉船中出水的一些瓷器，很多是德化窑的产品。
Space in the hold of the merchant ships was limited, and so the goods needed to be packed in to maximize capacity. This was easily done with porcelain, which is designed to stack. Those doing the packing weren't simple hired deckhands. While the ship owner advertised for crew, they weren't given wages. They were given a section of the hold to look after. Essentially, each crew member was also a merchant in his own right.
以商代新的形式应该来说是泉州比较特别的一种经营方式。就是这个船主呢，他雇佣的这些船员啊、水手，他不付工资给他，但是呢，他在船上有划定了某一些船舱。让这一些随船的这些船员、水手，去经营。
Each section and level was priced up for the small traders. It made sense for the ship owner, whose risk was limited to the ship itself and not the cargo. And the merchants each decided the best way to make a profit through their journey, sometimes on a relatively meager budget.
泉州的经商模式可以用灵活来定义它，像独资经营、合资经营，现在我很好理解了哈。那还有就委托经营，比如说我们那个有资本的这些商人，他不亲自到海外去做贸易，他可能把资本啊委托这些海商去海外给他代购一些东西，然后回来以后他在本地的那个开店经营。
This had the effect of encouraging small enterprises, rather than concentrating the trade in just a few very wealthy hands.
经商的还有宗教人士、和尚啊、导师啊，包括农民、妇女、社会的各个阶层的人呢，纷纷下海，都投入了这样的一个规模壮大的对海外的贸易活动。
It wasn't just ceramics, of course. Goods exported included sugar, textiles, wine, and of course, tea. A weaver could produce enough silk in a year to support his family well and pay taxes too. But if he took the plunge and exported through Quanzhou, he could make a fortune. The promise of riches made Quanzhou a very busy port indeed. The wealth of this trade also brought less desirable attention. Pirates, privateers, and foreign powers began to prey on the ships. But still, the trade continued. The real danger didn't come from outside at all. It came from the imperial court, because it was about to shut down all maritime trade from China. Just half a century after its peak, Chinese coastal trade was in the doldrums. Pirates and foreign powers were making sea travel hazardous, and they were even making incursions into Chinese territory. So the Ming Emperor simply removed the temptation and banned marine trade.
明朝这个海禁其实是开始于元末的时候，元末已经有4次海禁令，它主要的是一个是就是为了这个国家安全啊，再一个呢，它是为了就是要官方垄断海外贸易，所以呢，它就是私人海外贸易成为非法。
By 1472, the local customs agency had closed. With no trade, it simply wasn't needed anymore. The ban affected all classes of vessel, those with large ships with more than 3 masts, and all those who engaged in private international trade were faced with harsh sentences, forced labor, or even death. This meant that boat builders were also badly affected. Huang Wuzhui is the former director of the Quanzhou shipyard. In his retirement, he builds accurate scale models of ancient ships, including the medieval vessels that were used in international trade. Quanzhou was served by a class of ship unique to Fujian province. Called the Fu ship, it had a V-shaped hull with a draft of up to 4 meters. The bow and stern were swept up high. It was a long-distance ship, which could weather poor conditions at sea and carry a large cargo at speeds of up to 4.7 knots.
我们宋代的船是一个舱一个舱，每一个舱为什么是水泥隔舱？它比如这个舱碰到搅了什么桶过去的，这个舱就不会漏水了，减少了，船就不会停下去了。意思是这样。
This 12th century Fu ship shows the watertight compartment technology clearly. The 13 compartments were connected firmly to the hull. This system was an important step in maritime safety, but not foolproof, as this ship was discovered as a wreck on the seabed. The elegant design of these Fu ships has many fans, including Huang Lingxiao from Taiwan, who is so taken with them that he has commissioned a full-size working Fu ship and plans to sail the maritime Silk Road end-to-end, finishing in Venice.
30年前呢，我就发现这种中国的传统浮船，非常漂亮，所以我就非常喜欢，对它感兴趣。所以从那时候就开始研究传统帆船。
To get his boat built properly, he's come to Fujian and engaged boat builders here.
台湾的师傅呢，做船壳还可以，那甲板以上到桅杆，已经大概60、70年没有做帆船，所以传统的方法他们已经不知道。
But even here, they are learning as they build.
这一根轴子是要做什么用？
做吊桥。
做锚车就对了。目前是总长17米，然后宽度4.5米。虽然我们这样听起来好像蛮大，事实上跟以前的，实际上他们在用的船是小船，他们真正在贸易船的时候都是30米以上的。
水泥哦。
哎，咱家阿未拆开嘛吼？
阿未。
做好以后也计划说到航行到威尼斯去，因为我们的船的名字叫浪荡子马可波罗。或者是帆船，我会到国外去 sailing school， 就是帆船学校去很短暂的学习，像美国的圣地亚哥，英国的 Portsmouth。我后来发现，英国他们以前是海洋强国，事实上中国一点都不会输他们，只是我们没有系统的去整理这些字。他们讲的呢，我去学的那资料，我们的这讨海人都很熟练了，都非常熟练。
For 200 years, trade and shipbuilding ground to a halt in Quanzhou. It was a standstill in Quanzhou, except for one man, who was sanctioned by the emperor to explore the world. His voyages were to go down in the annals of history.